Hi, friends and fellow Earth Angels. In this video, I would like to talk about the past life regression services that I offer. I get a lot of questions, so I am hoping to answer those questions here so that maybe you'll feel more comfortable when you're coming in for the actual session. So I trained with Brian and Carol Weiss at the Omega Institute in New York in 2016. I usually tell people Brian Weiss is the guy to learn from if you're interested in learning about and training in past life regression therapies. He was such a wonderful teacher. We went through a series of regressions as a way of teaching us. So I believe it was a 5-day training. So I believe we had 4 past life regressions and we had 1 progression that brought us into the future. And I was lucky enough to get a picture with him, and his energy was so warm and gentle and loving. He is a deeply therapeutic man. He comes from a therapeutic background, and I feel so grateful to have received his it's kind of like an attunement of his energy and the way that he works. So I have adopted a lot of his practices in my past life regressions. I use his scripts in the past life regression. So when you're coming in, you're sitting in a chair like that. I know some people do regressions laying down. We did them sitting up, and I found that I could be more present with the session. I could be more aware. So I suggest when you're coming in, come comfortable. You will be sitting in a chair for a period of time, and you want to come in relaxed. It is a guided meditation type journey. So we start going into the physical body. So no matter what happens, your physical body gets a healing. Then we go downstairs into a garden, and in the garden is where we branch out to different places. We start with going back in this lifetime, and then we go back to past lives. So it is truly a journey. Every single journey is recorded. So, for the most part, clients do remember their experiences. They might not remember every detail, but you're coming out of the session with information. I like to record them because sometimes the benefit of going back and listening offers even more insight. The past life regression session is what I like to believe is kind of a beginning, it's a start. And then so much more can come after the regression in the days and the weeks and the months after as you're living your life. So it is an experience with benefits that are long term. Let's see here, the hypnosis part. That's one of the biggest questions that I get. I cannot make you bark like a dog, quack like a duck. It is not that type of hypnosis. The type of hypnosis we're working with is a very meditative but present practice. I like to think of it as if you were reading a really good book. Again, reading a book, your eyes are open and you're having the experience visually. If you are watching a really good movie, again, eyes open, immersed in the experience. And the next thing you know, it is 2 in the morning because the book is so good, or the next thing you know, 2.5 hours later, time has gone by because the movie was so good. That is the type of hypnotic state we're talking about. You are aware of what's going on around you. You may hear noises, although my office is relatively quiet. Things happen. Fire trucks go by. So the journey is not meant for you to be in a deeply hypnotic state. I think that's one of the concerns too. So that leads me to branch off a little bit. I know it can be weird to come in and have this experience with somebody that you don't know. I am very well aware that the work that I do is sensitive in nature. I am very well aware of my clientele who can certainly have levels of anxiety, can be highly sensitive, empathetic. And so to come into a space with somebody that you don't know, that you're going into this meditative state, I can understand that it could be weird. There could be some hesitancy to it. So sometimes people want to bring in a friend into their session. I usually don't mind. Here's my caveat. When you add energies into the room, it can be distracting because remember, these sessions are long and that friend or family member is sitting here for a long period of time. They're going to move, they're going to get antsy. It happens. And in energy, we can feel, especially as empathetic and sensitive people, other people's energies. Now, I have been doing this a very long time. I have done, I don't know, a few hundred, if not more, past life regressions at this time. I am immersed in the experience with you. So I'm very mindful of my energy, almost like being muted, where you don't know I'm here other than the questions I'm asking. So, the people who have had friends come in, some people have had really great experiences, but oftentimes the person in the regression, it's more of a distraction. So I don't recommend it. I'm also not going to tell you you cannot have somebody in the room either. But from my experience, it is a different experience than others. So I'm hoping that this video helps to quell or calm some of those anxieties. And remember, the whole session is recorded. I don't stop it. If I did, you'd hear a beep. So you will have everything on the recorded um, digital copy that you'll get after your session. So hopefully that helps. Going back to the hypnotic state. So often, when people are starting the regression, they don't think they're deep enough. And that's why I like to share what the hypnotic space is like. And again, if you've ever been driving on the road, immersed in your thoughts, and passed your exit or didn't remember going over a bridge. That is the hypnotic space that we're talking about. And anytime, let's say a car gets in front of you, somebody walks into the room and calls your name, if you're reading a book or watching a movie, you come out of that space and you're able to be present in the moment. That's the hypnotic space that we're talking about. So hopefully that is helpful. Uh, and if you have a naturally busy, active mind and not sure if you can get into that meditative state, it is a slow process. We take our time, and there is never, ever any pressure to get something. So I am merely holding space for you. I am asking questions. And I am allowing room for your journey. Even though I have a pathway, you are always you always have the free will to navigate that journey however you would like. In the guided meditation, I tell you everything I'm going to do before we do it. So even if you've never experienced this, it's such a slow process that you feel relaxed in the journey. and hopefully you never feel rushed. I understand that it's not always easy to get something, right? So I use language like visualize, pretend, or imagine. You don't have to be a clairvoyant. You don't have to see. Some people sense they're in a dark room. Some people feel expansive and light and fun. Some people go into a space where they feel discord or discomfort. And so those are people using their feeling nature. Some people hear or they smell before they actually see. So I am really holding space, reflecting language back in a way that's going to resonate with you. I am very flexible. I do not have one way that I do regressions. I am very well aware that everybody is different and everybody navigates the journey in different ways. So, hopefully, that gives you some more comfort in the way that, I work. These sessions can be deeply therapeutic. That being said, I know people come in after reading past life regression books. And although books and stories can be very amazing, very fun, in the work that I've done, it's very rare that people come in and they go back to lives where they're kings and queens. I mean, it's happened for sure. But most often, people go back to mundane lives. And it is in those mundane lives that they have some type of experience or memory, or something happens in that life that they're able to connect with this life. So, for example, I don't want to give too many details away because I don't want to plant seeds either, but um, I had an experience with a person who came in, and I hope I hope if there's anyone watching this video who actually had these experiences, I hope you don't mind me sharing because they're very profound, and I'm not going to say any names and if they're male or female, but I had a person come in, and this person went back to a past life where, I should say, first off, they came in with the feeling of loss, like missing something, a deep sense of grief. And even though they had a loss early on in life, it didn't necessarily correlate with the deep grief that they were feeling. So that is what brought the person in. And this person went back to a lifetime where they died in a forest, if I'm remembering correctly, alone. And with the soul journey and doing as many past life regressions as I've done, I have learned how important it is to have closure or for there to be a witness to a death and a burial of sorts or a ceremony of sorts. In this lifetime, sometimes it's a memorial, sometimes it's an actual burial of a casket, sometimes it is a cremation. There is something about the closure of that adds to the liberation of the soul and a freedom of the soul. There were many lifetimes where people died at sea, they died alone in the woods, they died, uh, I should say, I'm trying to search for good words. uh, People have died, I want to say, not in good ways. meaning murdered, where the story wasn't uncovered. People have died mysteriously, maybe where, again, they were alone. And so sometimes in these regressions, clients go back to these lifetimes to be a witness to what happened, a witness to the experience, and they remember almost as if they are there for the memorial for the story. And I have seen profound shifts in the client after having that experience with their soul. I think those lifetimes create soul fractions where if there wasn't a witness or a proper proper closure to that death, I feel like in some ways it can leave the soul unrested. And I believe for me, I mean, I'm a vibration. People are either going to resonate with me or they're not. The people who are guided to me are usually seeking, searching, exploring, curious about past lives. So, this client went back to the lifetime where she had died alone. And I should say that person died alone. And there was more to the story. And what was interesting is she came out of the past life regression. Well, you already know it's female. And she felt a great sense of relief. Fast forward a few days later, she went home and she was telling her parents about the experience. And her mom told her story about when she was a little girl. I think she was 3. Her parents were going to take her into the woods, and she had a meltdown. She did not want to go into the woods. And from what I remember of the story, her parents went home. They didn't take her into the woods. And so at that time, it was like her soul and her spirit remembered the dangers of the woods. And so in part of the regression, we repaired that story. We healed that aspect of the soul. And from what I remember, she felt more whole and complete. Now, she certainly had more to her journey, more to that experience, but that was one of the most profound that I can speak about why people come into having regressions. There Sometimes people come in and they think it's going to be one thing and it's completely different. There was a gentleman who came in and his wife brought him in. And he was challenged with having a very, well, close connection to his family, almost anxiety about something happening to them in this lifetime. And so his wife had brought him in, and he came into it thinking he lost his family members in another lifetime. And in the lifetimes that he went back to, he also passed away alone in the lifetimes he went back to. And again, another soul retrieval, another resurrection together, being a witness to the soul after the life and having some time alone with that aspect of himself to ask questions was something that was deeply healing and therapeutic to him. And so he came in thinking he lost his loved ones in another lifetime, when in fact, there was a deep fear of dying alone in this lifetime. And so once he knew that, he could embrace his family even more so and enjoy the family that he did have, which was really sweet and really, really beautiful. It was a beautiful experience to watch unfold. So that's brings me to when you're coming in for a session, having some type of openness. So often people are guided to particular movies or genres or places in the world. So they may go into the regression questioning. Like, let's say they love the Celtic Irish culture. And so they've read books and they've watched movies and they come into the regression and they go back there. It is natural that their left brains or their logical minds are going to be like, I'm making this up. I watch these movies. That being said, most likely they're guided to those types of movies or those types of energies because there's a part of them that is remembering. So there is a technique that I do before we go into the meditation so that clients can have an idea of what the regression is like in left brain, right brain. So we even practice before we go into the actual regression. And it's very normal if you have a busy mind, if you're type A, if you're very logical and analytical, it's very normal that people come in wondering if they can even do this. So we do slowly go into it so the client knows the difference. It's very normal to think you're making it up, to think you're not deep enough. And yet, a person can still have a full, deep experience. So, this is why I take the time to go slowly into the experience so that you can be with yourself and your emotions throughout the process. Let's see, I have notes here. Not everybody goes back to a past life. So, I say that because, of course, people come in with an idea or an expectation. And you have to remember, I work with and you work with your guides, your spiritual guides, your ancestors. You have been guided to my website, to the past life regression work that I do for a reason. And even before you book the appointment, your guides are already starting to plant seeds and prepare you. And so it is always best to have an openness to whatever the experience is going to be. If going to back to a past life is what gets you in here, and then when you have an openness and your guides want to bring you in different places, that can happen. Sometimes people access the divine feminine energy. Sometimes people access an understanding of the divine masculine energy. Sometimes people go to other dimensions. There have been people who have gone to what I call fairyland, places where there's tree people. People have gone to other galaxies and out of space. And what's so fascinating is that these people are usually brand new. They are not deeply spiritual, esoteric type of people. They're here for an experience. And I can tell you, they leave feeling deeply connected to themselves. Sometimes there are souls here from other planets. And the idea of past life regression gets them into the office. And then the aspects of their souls that are from different planets bring them there or show them where they're from, and they have a deeper sense of home. And those clients usually feel like Earth is a pit stop, but it's not their home, and they usually long for home. So again, we can use past life regression to explore different avenues. Now, I can't say it works for you to come in and say, that's where I want to go, because the people who have gone to those spaces really had no idea that those spaces were even an option. And once they went in, they went with the experience, and it was wonderful and amazing. Sometimes people have connected with their loved ones in the afterlife. And I, again, go with whatever's happening in the experience and I give them time with their loved ones. Sometimes people go back to memories in this lifetime. Sometimes they go back to the womb for remembering their destiny and what they came into this life for. So there's many different experiences a person can have with past life regressions. And I'm just sharing the experiences that I've had watching clients. Again, sometimes it's soul retrieval, sometimes it's being a witness to an experience. Sometimes it's a remembering, sometimes it is where they came from. Sometimes it's re-experience the essence of divine love and what that is. Sometimes they come and they sit with angels and guides and they talk to them. Ah, what else? How to have a good experience. If this video prompts you to want to come in and have an experience, I would say book a time when you can be present and relaxed. So if morning is better for you, come in the morning. If evening is better for you after the day's over, come then. Or if the afternoon is when kids are away and you have space, come then. You want to book a time where you possibly have an hour or two after the session to journal, to write, because what happens is after an experience, people then leave and they start making connections. They start remembering more. And I think that's how the books of people's past life regression stories are so vivid. Not everybody has such vivid experiences, but when you sit down to write, more comes. So it is great if, you don't have to rush out of here and you have some time to yourself to either go to a park, to sit in your car, to go home and process. If you're a coffee drinker, drink coffee. If you're a breakfast eater, eat breakfast. If you're not a breakfast eater, don't eat breakfast. I would say don't change your routine. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to be meditating, so maybe I shouldn't have coffee or maybe I shouldn't eat. Your body has a routine, it has a system, it has a flow. And sometimes, especially with earth angels and highly sensitive people, when you interrupt that routine, it can kind of throw things off. So keep your normal routine. I would say if, again, coffee or tea is your thing, have it. And then, come in. Um, which goes back to picking a time frame where you feel you're at your best. Wear comfortable clothing. Again, you're going to be sitting in a chair like that. Those chairs are super comfortable, body friendly. You can bring a sweater, you can take your shoes off, and you can curl up in the chair. You can completely leave yourself wide open, whatever you want to do, but you will be sitting. So come comfortable. And I would also say open to an idea of an intention. Sometimes people come in without an intention and they have great experiences without the intention. I would say not to be so rigid, but that you need to have a certain experience to understand a certain thing. But maybe it's an energy intention. Maybe it's to understand yourself. Maybe sometimes it's to understand a dynamic, a pattern, a relationship to some degree. But remember, if you have a challenge with a significant other in this lifetime, you could go back to a lifetime where you had a similar experience energetically with a person who was a parent or a person who was a child. So I wouldn't recommend coming in for things like understanding like twin flame energy specifically with a specific person because most often, there's some variant in the past life that connects with the experience and not necessarily with the particular person. I hope that makes sense. Who can benefit? Certainly those who have been on a spiritual journey, Certainly those who have had lots of traditional therapeutic sessions in the mental health realm, and now they're exploring maybe the emotional and spiritual avenue. People who have explored different options in their healthcare and are kind of coming up against not it, not it, not it. People who are seeking and searching and wanting to learn about themselves. One of my favorite clientele is the person who values spiritual growth and personal growth and development. I am a person who has invested lots of money financially in my own personal growth and development. That's my hobby for my own self, is to explore and learn about who I am, what I came into this life to learn about. And so a lot of times people who are coming in for regressions are wanting to just know themselves on a deeper level. And sometimes that's the intention, not for a particular experience, but they're open to whatever happens. A person who has challenged with connections, a person who has somewhat of an understanding of imagination, exploration, meditation. I certainly cannot tell you who you are. Now, I probably could in the sense that I could read your energy. But I have found that when people go in and have the experience with their own selves, the healing that comes from it is so much more impactful, so much more powerful than I could ever facilitate telling somebody what I read about their energy. So that's what I'm doing. I'm holding space, connecting with your guides to be inspired to ask the right questions, to lead you and guide you through the experience. Sometimes people come in and they just cry the whole session, but it's not painful. It is liberation. It is a release in some way. So, again, I say my office, as you see, part of it here is a space where people come to cry. They come to shed tears. This is a well of release tears. Uh, People cry when they're around me, and I'm told that it's a good cry, it's a therapeutic cry. I never really know how to take that. They're like, "I needed that cry." So again, I think it's a testament to the safe space that I create when a person comes in. I love meeting new people. I love being with them, having experiences. I love data, I love information, and I love learning about things in the past and past lives that are not written in history books. You'd be amazed about how many people come in and describe the same doorway on a tree, or describe the same hardware, or they describe the same shape of the door. It's fascinating to me what journey they choose. I have my own theories when somebody's on a journey and the way that they find their way in. It is fascinating. I'm in here in Southern New England, and I was born and raised here in Southern New England. And I find the people that come in, they have similar experiences in their past lives. And I swear it's souls that have lived in this part of the country. And it's funny because somebody will say they'll describe an area, or they'll describe an island, or they'll describe, and I just kind of chuckle to myself. I'm like, "Yep, I've heard this before." Now, every single lifetime is different. Every single lifetime, but the places that they go into and the experiences they had with the places, like the description of the places, there's a lot of commonality. Now, I wonder if I was doing regressions, on the West Coast, if I would experience different people having different experiences, but the people who are guided to my regressions, there's been so many similarities in their descriptions, like down to the detail, that I think is profound and amazing. Now, I don't want to talk about a lot of those things because, again, if you're coming in for a regression, I don't want to plant any, seeds. But I think that's the fun part of me being a regressionist is I have my own like stories. I have my own experiences with the clients that are coming in. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming in and wanting to be open and wanting to learn because I learned so much about history. And for me, I've always been skeptical about like the spiritual journey. I've always been skeptical about things. So when I am receiving and experiencing people having the same patterns, the same experiences, the same ways in, it's just profound to me, and it just reinforces the power behind the divine and this work. It's just incredible. You do not have to have meditation experience. I've had many clients that have come in who are brand new for meditation, but you do have to have an openness. Sometimes people come in with like this stubbornness. They want what they want in the way that they want it. That's not gonna benefit you. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's most likely not gonna go well. Now, there are always options. If people come in and it's just not working, there is always something we can do. I have lots of other services and other things that I can do in that time frame to support you, so I don't want you to feel like if you can't do it, like you're wasting your money, because there's always something to learn. Sometimes people just come into the office for one thing, and then something else happens, and it's exactly what they need. I am very flexible with the divine. But if you're coming in with, I want what I want in the way that I want it, God doesn't work that way. The divine doesn't work that way. And most likely the person's humbled or disappointed. And I feel really bad, but I just know the nature of the experience. So you do have to have some degree of openness, some willingness to explore, to almost kind of go down the lazy river, to go with whatever comes up. Stubbornness does not work with the divine. I can tell you from experience, it doesn't work. So seekers, people who are on the spiritual journey, people who have been in therapy and yet still feel discord or fractured in some way. I do actually have therapists who recommend clients to come see me, and then they take the information that they learned and then they go back to the therapist. And there are so many incredible psycho spiritual therapists that are out there now who are open and working with earth angels and highly sensitive and empathetic people. Like, it is no longer like, it is no longer left brain, right brain. It is no longer of the mind. We're seeing how powerful integrative work is now, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. And I'm just seeing, I've been doing this work for 18 years almost. October will be 18 years. I am recording this in July, the end of July 2025. I don't know how long this is going to be out there, but for me, it'll be 18 years in October that I've been doing this work. And I have watched the clientele evolve so much. I've experienced so much. I've seen so much. I've learned so much. I'm currently trying to figure out how to get myself out there to share all that I've learned, but I digress. So, you may be coming from a recommendation. It might be you read something and you want to learn more. I think the most important message I can say is come with an openness and a willingness. I am hoping that this video offers you some type of insight as to whether I would resonate with you or our energies would resonate. I am an earth angel myself, highly sensitive, empathetic. I love nice people. I love kind people. Earth angels are a type. And I pride myself on creating space where people feel warm and open, and also wanting to kind of deep dive into their spiritual journey. So let me just review my notes to see if there's anything else I want to share. No, I think I covered it all. Of course, if you have any other questions that I didn't cover, please, you can reach out to me via email. There is a form on my website that you can send me a question. There's a link at the top left of my website, gladysellen.com, that will send me an email, or you can just send me an email at gladys@heavenly-hugs.com. So I hope this has further supported you in making your decision. And if you are opting out from my energy, I just wish you the best on your journey. I know you're here for a reason, and it's a powerful journey. We are evolving, we are growing, and we are moving beyond spiritually and intuitively what our ancestors, our parents, and our grandparents, and so on and so forth ever could. It is exciting, powerful, wild times on this journey, and I just feel so grateful to be a part of it as a facilitator, as a mentor, as a guide, because I'm also learning so much. So I wish you well. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.